Thanks for coming tonight. My name is Mike Pavlik, and I direct the band program at York High School. I've got one of my students here by chance, Hector. We may have him do some guinea pig work for us later on. He doesn't know that, but I'm sure you'll be up for it, Hector. Yes, go ahead, Hector. No, call me Mr. Pavlik. Yeah, so I've been directing music at York for 17 years. This is my 27th year of teaching. I have a degree in stick waving, so a master's in conducting from University of Northern Colorado, and I love it. I love conducting. So I conduct several bands at York, direct the jazz ensembles, and yeah, we're thrilled that you're here tonight. This is part of a series of classes that I'm giving that sort of give a background or insider's view of some of the music making processes. And then with those insights, hopefully just music listening is more enjoyable for you as a result. Okay, conducting 101. So there are a few terms that we need to cover before we get started here. The first few have to do with rhythm. So time, tempo, pulse, or beat within music. And I've got this picture of these rowers on this long boat. Have any of you read Boys in the Boat, by the way? Great, yeah, great book, isn't it? It's about the Olympic rowing team. Fabulous book. But in order to have the most efficient movement through the water, the rowers have to row with absolute precision with one another. And that timing connects them, of course. And so it is with, of course, music that timing keeps musicians together. There's a fascinating video online that has two guitarists who are hooked up to electrodes to study brain scans. Before they start playing their duet together, their scans are erratic and different. But as soon as they start playing together, the waves start to line up and sync. So they are literally one-minded. That happens, needs to happen in order for us to react and to be with each other as musicians. At home, you're not going to be able to do this with us, but here we're going to practice this process, okay? We're going to use a syllable called dut. And we're going to go dut, 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 dut. Do that with me. Ready, go. Dut, 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 dut. Off. 2, 10, go. Dut, 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 dut. Off. 3. Dut, 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 dut. Off. No, you do it on your own. Really, that's really quite good. At home, these 4 participants are dutting really well in time. They're dutting, we have 8 counts or 8 dots within a measure of 4 counts per measure. They're dutting 8th notes, resting for a measure, and then dutting 8th notes again. If we had them on brain scans, we would see that their brain scans or waves are lining up with one another. Now, let's do this. And the clinic will be done. This is all I've got for you. No, I'm just kidding. Let's do it again together. Ready, go. Dut, 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 off. Dut, 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 dut. Yeah. So that's it. So conducting is that. It's not so much, or a big part of it, very big part of it. You're connected with each other. You've gathered this sense of pulse or time. You're rowing the boat at exactly the same speed. And I'm the one up front who's, just there to just helping to remind you where that pulse is at. Okay, so time, tempo, pulse, beat. Tempo refers to the speed of music. So let's experiment with that. I'm not going to tell you the the tempo before we start. I want you to do it with me. Ready? Off. Da 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 da. Off. 2, 3. Da 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 da. Yeah. So the speed is the tempo of music, but we're all keeping the same pulse or beat or sense of time together. So that symbiosis between musicians having that internal pulse and the conductor having that internal pulse to help remind each other and coordinate the relationship with each other. I think often it looks like all greatness is flowing through the conductor. They're controlling every aspect of the performance. And throughout the night, you will see that, well, in my experience, the more experienced the musician, the less this person does up here, really. It may look like they are controlling the universe from their baton, but really, the musicians are really very minimal instruction from the conductor. Okay, so time, tempo, pulse, beat, staying together with our time together. Welcome, hello, come on in. Next, we're going through the elements of music. The first element of music that we talked about was time, tempo, and beat, or pulse, and keeping together with one another with regard to keeping a steady pulse with each other. The next term we need to talk about is dynamics. Dynamics are the volume of music, whether how loud or soft the music is. The conductor, of course, can play a huge role with regard to how loud or how soft the ensemble performs. So let's dut again, okay? And this time, I'm not going to tell you to dut loud or soft. Just react to what I'm conducting for you. Ready? Same thing. 2. Dut, 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 off. Yeah, excellent. Cool. So just that size of pattern makes a huge difference. But then also, did you see what I was doing with my face? Unfortunately, you did. But there is a, if I was to, so if there's a loud section of the music, literally, there can be sort of a angry sort of snarl that helps to dictate, let's be louder here. 3. So let's try this. I'm just going to conduct you with my face. Ready? So we're going to dut together, dutting one measure of duts, resting for a measure, and then dutting again. Same pattern we've just been doing. Here we go. 1, 2, ready. Yeah, exactly. And really, it's that one of the main ingredients for your conducting, which we'll all get to do tonight, is to try to keep the baton here in front of your face so that this can be, you know, Hector, one of my students at school, has gotten this look a lot. Just kidding. But you can say so much without saying a word. You make those types of glares or looks of encouragement or looks of kind of worry, perhaps. But the facial expressions with regard to dynamics and expression are really a big part of the puzzle. Dynamics, volume, and the loudness and softness of music. Next would be articulations. So let's talk about an articulation is the way a note is played. So the first example up here is a staccato. You've been dutting staccato notes without knowing it. Dut, 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 dut. They're light, separated notes. The next one is a little more of an accented note. The upside down V is an accented note. We did that as well. Dot, 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 short and accented. The next V on the side there is a longer accented note, which would be da, 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 big. And the last line would be a tenuto, which would be smooth. Do, 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 do. So let's do this. Let's go back to our square one. Let's just dot 8/8 notes with a staccato articulation. And 2, ready. Dot, 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 off. Great. Now we're going to jump to the end. And we're going to use the tenuto line, the line over the note indicating smooth and connected. So notice how I'm going to change the pattern here from dot, 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 to do, 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 do. Smoother movement, rounded edges means smoother. So let's try that together. We'll start with staccato, but then I'll change the pattern and you change your articulation. Here we go. 2, ready. Dot, 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 dot. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Off. Yeah, cool. So the conductor's job is to help set the time. The conductor's job is to show the dynamics of the music, the articulations, and then finally, as a conductor, you have the best seat in the house, really, where you can hear all of the parts as they're coming right at you. And so it's the job of the conductor to figure out what the best balance is for the ensemble. If you're playing in the center of the orchestra or the band, like Hector does when he plays bassoon, he can hear the clarinets. Tell us what are the instruments you can hear really well. Trumpets are right behind your head. Right. So with that perception from within the band or orchestra, it's hard to tell how loud you should be as a particular instrumentalist. So the job of the conductor is to, again, either encourage a portion of the band to play louder or to soften a particular area of the band in order to present the type of balance that we want to have in our ensembles. This is a sound pyramid for a band. The tuba is the lowest instrument in the band, and so therefore the lowest instruments are generally should be the loudest. Okay, and the other instruments sort of color that deep, resonant, low sound. Just like when we go to the movie theater and we hear the rumbling of the sounds of the orchestra playing or the plane flying overhead in an action movie or something, that lowest vibrations or that sense of give that sense of fullness to the sounds we're experiencing. And the same goes for the music that we're listening to. So as we listen for balance as a conductor, we're listening for, okay, the lowest voices speaking, are the upper voices playing too loud? And if they are, then we quiet them and bring forward the lowest voices. Yeah, so those elements of music are what, I mean, a huge responsibility for the conductor. And then with all of those elements of music, we can start to, extract expression out of the ensembles that we're playing with in various combinations of those elements. So we've been talking about what the purpose of a conductor is, but really, as this is kind of the meat and potatoes of this, is that the role of the conductor changes from group to group, in my opinion, for sure. Hello. Come on in. Hello, hello. Hi. Yeah, so with a really young group or inexperienced group, the conductor is really sort of the timekeeper, just like, okay, we are here and now we're to this new section, everyone. Okay, everyone, now we are to this section. And that is the primary sort of, responsibility for a teacher or conductor in front of young groups. By the time you get to middle school and then advanced and then professional, the role of the conductor really starts to change in that there's more of a partnership between the ensemble in front of the conductor. And this relationship that there's a give and take between the two. And ultimately, by the time you get to professional, really, you could take usually you could take the conductor out of the equation altogether, and the ensemble would just play on its own. Quick story, I won't disclose any names, but he was a conductor of the Chicago Symphony at one point. There's a local a York graduate who plays once in a while with the symphony. She's not a regular member, but she was playing on the Rite of Spring by Stravinsky, and the conductor was a bar off on the whole last page of this famous work. And she said, well, the orchestra just knows that piece very, very well. So we ignored him and did our work. And if you know the Rite of Spring, it's a remarkably difficult piece of music that there's all sorts of time changes, and we'll get into that, but it's very, very complex. And so you would think that the conductor would be absolutely necessary in that type of a situation. And when the musicians know the piece, really, the conductor is really kind of a window dressing almost in a lot of ways. Now, don't if we had Muti from the Chicago Symphony walk in, he would tell you, of course, there is a respect that conductors have at that professional level that garners a investment and engagement from those orchestra players that is absolutely crucial for an organization to run. So within a rehearsal setting, I'm going to kind of skip around here for a little bit. So if we go right to a professional ensemble, really the composer has, the composer is composed the work, but the conductors, as they look at the work, they get to choose the interpretation of that particular work. And it's fascinating to listen to several different pieces of orchestral works done by different conductors, because the different tempos, the different style, the different interpretations really do elicit completely different types of sensibilities with regard to the same notes that are being played. And for me, the professional conductor is someone who has that valued and very high artistic merit that is an interpretation of those works that are unique and have their own fingerprint on each one of the pieces that they conduct. And it's that type of artistry that is really takes place in the rehearsal process, which can be very, very quick. There's a fascinating recording of Bruno Walter, one of my favorite conductors, conducting a recording orchestra back in the 1950s. It was a CBS recording orchestra. They were recording Mozart's Linz Symphony. And Bruno Walter knew that he had only about 20 minutes to rehearse this group. And the piece itself is much, much longer than 20 minutes. So what he did is he, within the first, and there's a recording of this, his rehearsal process, which is, again, fascinating. But he is able to deliver instruction for the way that he wants the music to be played within the first few measures of this piece, that the musicians then can to take those types of concepts and apply them to the rest of the piece of music before they even rehearse the entire work, which is, again, goes to show that there's this, when you get to the professional level, it is a symbiosis. These musicians know the works that are being, they come in ready to play every note perfectly. They want to know what, the interpretation is going to be. And then when we're performing it, there'll be some sort of a marriage between that interpretation and the stubbornness of the orchestra that may, deem that the way they do it is a particular way that they're going to kind of hold to. So, and then in between that is that sort of spectrum of moving from an absolute timekeeper to this marriage between interpretation and the expertise of the musicians. And it's kind of like, and I have 4 kids, and it's like parenting, where you, as they get older, as they get hopefully wiser, you allow more room for autonomy. When I conduct at York in our top ensembles, there will be moments where, let's say, a saxophone section will spray something perhaps differently than we've rehearsed it. And if I'm open to it, I might be, and it sounds like a better right answer than the one that I did in rehearsal. We will go with their interpretation. We'll expand a phrase, we'll make something louder. And again, it shows that when there is more of an investment in the ensemble, that the relationship between the conductor and the orchestra is doing this all of the time. So when you watch your next, Chicago Symphony performance or listen to a classical recording, just understand that often it can look like all greatness is flowing through the conductor because they just look, their hair is flying and they're sweating and they're, it's very dramatic, but there is so much of a symbiosis that's happening in place there, that musicians have so much expertise and knowledge, and that much of getting the best work out of a group of players is to kind of get out of the way. So yeah, anyway, there we go. Do we have any questions with regard to what we've talked about so far? We're going to get into, I've got conducting batons for you all today. They're actually bamboo skewers and they're rather sharp, so please be careful. But so we'll do some conducting. But before we do that, do we have any questions? What's happening? Yes, he does. Well, yes. Although there are, I've never played in a Chicago Symphony, so I'm just basing this on my relationships with players and who do play in that setting. And there are, yes, we'll take like the Muti, who is the Maestro Muti, is the conductor of the Chicago Symphony. There is such respect for him as conductor that the musicians will, if he asks for it, they do it. If they don't, I mean, I think, will set things straight. I've watched the CSO rehearse with guest conductors, and the respect is noticeable, and it's not there. And so, yes, the musicians will and take the cues from the conductor and respect their interpretation. But even with that, it's not always I'm going to do exactly what you want. It's it's not unlike, you know, a teaching situation as well. I mean, you really have to earn the respect of the students to get them to buy into what you're doing, what you're saying, what you're asking. Those levels of trust do affect greatly what I can ask of an ensemble. And the same applies to a professional group as well. So yes, it's true that, you know, musicians will do what the conductor is asking, but there's always a give and take between, and it's not any different than any other organization that we're a part of, really. I mean, if you've got a great boss that you work for and you feel like you feel respected, valued, and you have some autonomy and you understand your sense of purpose within that organization, there can be really great investment and engagement, and the cogs of the wheel can really click. If there's not as much of that, that type of relationship, of course, the work and investment and engagement shifts as well. So when you see the orchestra and you're really blown away by what you're hearing, just know that those are special moments. And that, you know, it doesn't necessarily, I mean, brilliance happens every night at the Chicago Symphony. I do remember going to a Chicago Symphony performance. This was after the strike that they had a few years ago. And I just remember just being blown away by what I heard the first couple of pieces. And then I was able to talk to a couple of my friends who are more familiar with the group, and they were like, oh yeah, no, they were really trying. They were really glad to be there. Yes, we have a question.
I have a question for you from online.
Yes.
What percentage of a conductor's motions that are overly dramatic are just theater for the audience?
Oh, sorry. Well, I would say quite a bit. Quite a bit, you know. In my experience, quite a bit. Again, because the orchestra doesn't need that. They don't need to be inspired by, you know, that they're going to play that, whether I give them that or if I give them that. You know, there's a brilliant, and I should pull it up here in a bit, but it's a video of Richard Strauss conducting, and a very old film, but the orchestra is playing beautifully and they're playing his music, and he's looking like this. And the musicians in his orchestra would even comment. It was like, oh yeah, no, he was just waiting to play cards afterwards. And so no dramatic presentation, and yet the orchestra, who really respected him and his music, of course, played brilliantly for him. But much of that is there's a lot of theatrics, for certain. Yeah. Okay, so let's do a little conducting, and folks at home, if you want to just, you can use a pencil or you could use just your hand, but we're going to talk about just 3 different patterns, and then we're going to do some conducting with some music as well. Please excuse me, I'm going to distribute the batons. Oh, sure. Yeah, they're literally bamboo skewers. Yeah, we go. And they are sharp. Please, I had hoped to dull them. But anyway, but I think it's going to be helpful to have something in your hand so we can talk about how to hold it. Yeah, cool. And if you want to later on, you can see this and hold this baton as well. But let's talk about holding the baton. And in my conducting degree, I remember asking my conducting professor, okay, so I want to do this and this and this. If I use this movement, or should I do this movement, or should I hold the baton like this or like this? And then he asked me, well, dude, what you what you did it work for you? And I said, yeah, it actually did. Well, then it's right. Okay, so there's not like a one way to do this sort of scenario. There are some things that we probably all should start with, though. I like putting the baton kind of in the palm of my hand and then wrapping my fingers around and putting um, the um, the stick part of the baton in the first divot of my first knuckle on my pointer finger, and then putting my thumb behind it, kind of like that. Now, if I hold the baton like that, then if I want, I can use this movement for my fingers. Really subtle, small movements if I want. And again, we want to keep our baton somewhere in this plane so that we can keep this visual contact with our ensemble. Yeah, good. This looks great already. Good. Hector, question. You can, there will be some conductors that would tell you, oh, you must hold your baton in your right hand. No, I totally don't understand the rationale. If it feels better in your left hand, use your left hand. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not like the oboist is going to be, I totally got confused because you were like, yeah, right. I thought you were conducting a 3 instead of a 2. Anyway, I think they'll get it anyway. So this is a pattern of 4 beats. When we were doing our nutting exercise at the beginning of this session, this is the pattern I was using. Down is 1, across your chest is 2, out away from you is 3, and 4 is up. And that's it. Down, across your chest, out, and up. Now, do this with me, okay? I want you to count to 4, and I want you to try to count together. So you're not going to conduct right now. I just want to show you how inaccuracy or anyway, I'll just have you demonstrate. Count to 4 with me. Out loud. Yeah. We weren't together at all, were we at all? Try it again. Let's try it again. Ready? Yes. Okay. So what did I do that time that allowed us to be more together? I created these little check marks, and it's called an ictus. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So at each point, there's a little bit of a check mark there. Check, 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 check. Sometimes I'll imagine that there's a little droplet of water at the tip of the baton, and you just like flick it off. Go ahead, let's flick that. Ariel, flick off the water. Yeah, flick it off. Flick off the water. So I flick it down on 1, 1, 2, flick it off there, and flick off again for beat 4. So let's try that together. Ready and go. Check mark, check mark, check mark, check mark. So down across your chest is beat 2, away from you is beat 3, and up is beat 4. Ready? Again, down, across your chest, out, up, down, crossed, out, up. Yeah, that's the idea. Good. Yeah. And for me, all the while that I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep what we went to from the very beginning, which is that pulse. Dot, 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 dot. Dot, 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 dot. If I can get the group doing that in their own mind, and we coordinate our movement together with what's happening with the baton, the ensemble will be together. Okay, yeah, good. So that's a beat, that's a pattern in 4. Here's a pattern in 2 beats per measure. It looks like this: check mark, in sort of a J. 2, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. That's it. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, and 1 2. 1 and 2. Yeah, good. And this is a pattern in 3. So we're going to go down, away from you, and then back up. 3 and 3. Let's try that together. And 1, 2, and 3, and 1, 2, and 3, and down, out, and up, and down, out, and up. That's the idea. Yeah, good, 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 good. In each of these patterns, down is always 1. Always 1 is down. 1 and 1. Cool, good. So next, we're actually gonna take a look at a score and start to do some score study and prepare for our rehearsal tomorrow. Okay. So this piece that we're going to be looking at is a very famous band piece called Second Suite in F by Gustav Holst. And here's the musical score. Okay. First page. This piece is 4 movements long, but as a conductor, your job not only is to lead the organization, of course, but to interpret the music that you've selected. So oftentimes, as we look at a piece of music in the upper left-hand corner, it tells us tons of information. First of all, this is based on an English dance, folk dance. So just from that right there, would we use a very legato pattern, or would we use more of a angular? Yeah, exactly. So with a dance, that movement that we use with a baton is going to mimic dance-like movement as well. Allegro has to do with the speed of music, which means allegro means fast. And in Italian, with regard to musical terms, then you can see that in the score, these are all the parts for each instrument that are laid out. Clarinets, bass clarinets, bassoons, saxophones, trumpets, French horns, trombones, euphonium basses, and percussion. So this is a band score, so we don't have any stringed instruments in this particular arrangement. But as you can see, all of the notes are laid out for us to be able to follow and reference in our recordings, in our rehearsals, I should say. Okay, so this particular piece is in 2/2, so 2 beats per measure. So we're going to conduct in 2, everyone. So that J pattern. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, good. So we're going to do this. We're going to conduct to this piece. This is actually a recording of York from 2016 playing this piece. And we're going to, all right, we'll start again at the beginning here. So, okay, your first name, your Lorna? Yes. So folks at home, Lorna, as she's conducting, she's already, her head is moving like this, and it is exactly, we didn't have to talk about that type of expression coming from here. It was joyful. It was, you could see the dance. I wouldn't even have to watch the baton to know what tempo we're in and what style of music. Brilliant. That was awesome. That was wonderful. But that's it. And two, there's another really great video of he must be a 3 or 4-year-old who's conducting to music. And of course, he doesn't know how to study the score, but he knows this piece of music. And when the music is dramatic, I mean, he is dramatic. And he is just like, again, this type of reaction to the music is so completely natural. It is so absolutely universal. We don't have to study how to react to music like that. And when you naturally plug into that type of a sensibility, Oh, yes, this makes me want to dance. That's exactly the persona you want to give to your ensemble. So bravo. Excellent, excellent work. The next movement, another folk piece, folk song. This one is andante. We can see that means a walking tempo. So if you're walking down the street or a country lane in England, that's the tempo basically that we want to take this piece of music. We can also see by the articulations that these are smooth lyrical lines. Even just the shape of these lines of the music, even if we can't read music, we can see that these dots just kind of float along here. Whereas we go back to this first piece, we can see that they're very, they're segmented and short and very punctuated, where these are just, you can see how they're connected to one another, long, stretching symbols. So with regard to that, we're going to check out our time signature here. We're in 4/4. So remember, we go down, in across our chest, out and up, down, across our chest, out and up, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Yeah. So let's play along with this particular piece for just a little bit. That moment, the clarinet has the solo. I started the piece at one tempo, but the clarinetist thought, I want to go a little faster. They're the soloist, so they have more power in that moment than the conductor does. And so I had to go with them, and it was lovely. Let's listen to it again. And you can hear how the clarinetist takes initiative, and that is absolutely their right. Lots of examples of the soloist within the group wanting to shape the phrase in a certain way. I went with them, and then I liked to pull back at the ends of the phrases to make them feel more finished, like the words are coming to an end. And now we start a new idea. Again, maybe we pick up the speed a little bit, and then we slow down at the end. But the relationship between the group does that all the time. And that's what makes it so exciting, is that there is that give and take between the orchestra, the band, and the conductor at all times. It's a lovely, lovely sensibility. Okay, this one, now, this is really going to test our skills. See what kind of a good teacher I am. We're going to go from 4 in one measure to a measure of 3, back to a measure of 4, back to a measure of 3, back to a measure of 4 at a fast tempo. It'll look like this: 1, 2, 3, and a 4, and 1, 2, and 3. No, I'm actually faster than that. My mistake. Bump, 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 beep, bump, beep, deep, bump. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Now, if you don't get this, I'm not going to be upset or surprised. This is very difficult. But let's give it a whirl. This is the Song of the Blacksmith. So, what do you think? Angular movement or lyrical smooth? Of course, very angular and angry, sort of an angry face with it as well. Let's go back to the beginning. Here we go. Yeah, so that's a much more of a complex piece of music. Again, that keeps changing over and over again. So this piece goes between, this is called mixing of meter. And meter has to do with how many beats per measure. And so you keep changing your pattern. Every time the meter changes within the music, your pattern must change as well. Always giving the orchestra the downbeat of 1 on each measure with a downward movement. Cool? Yes. And if you want to take a look at this later on, you can look at it later. Where when I was first learning the score, I had to write in the numbers on the top of the scores in order to help remind me where those particular measures of 4 and 3 should be. Cool. Let's look at one more part of this. Movement 4 is, we see 6/8. And this is a scenario where we could conduct in 6. I didn't show you a 6 pattern, but it looks like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So down is 1, 2, 3 across your chest, 4, 5 are out, and 6 is up. Now, this piece of music goes about this fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's no way that I can conduct that. So instead of conducting it in 6, we conduct it in 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Even though there are 6 pulses within the measure, we can conduct it in 2, and the musicians will follow along with us. Cool? So let's try this. We'll play a little bit of this. And so our 2 pattern, down with a slight hook, outward, and then up. Down, up, down, up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There we go. And it's going to go pretty fast. Let's listen to this. And sometimes you can get away from conducting in 2 and just get sort of like 1, 2, 1, 2. Oh, you guys get it. Great. Here, I'm going to remind you. Yes, accent here. Bravo, clarinets. And and if there's a dramatic moment in the music where we want to get quiet, we can, at that point, kind of come back to leading the ensemble. But if they're going on their own and things are fine, we can step out of the way, so we don't have to conduct every single nuanced note. All right, so we've got about 7 minutes here left. What questions do you have for me? Hector.
Hold on 1 second. Let me grab a mic.
Got it. Okay, conducting in 9. Well, normally, if we're conducting,
Do you mind just repeating that question?
yes, how do you conduct in 9? With it, we have 9 beats per measure. Usually 9 is conducted in 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And it's the same pattern of 3, down, out, and up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1. In 12 would be a pattern of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12. Okay, cool. It's like 6, 8 was in 2. Great. Other questions?
Does anybody have any questions here? Let me grab the mic. And if anybody watching on a device has a question, please type it into the chat or the Q&A.
Hi, so if you actually have a singer,
Yes.
who are you beating after, or who are you going with? The singer
Right.
or still the music?
You always go with the singer.
Okay.
Always. Because the singers will not go with you. No, I mean, yeah, no, there is whenever you have a soloist, it is always up to the soloist. You will, if they do something completely different, you're going to coordinate that relationship with the orchestra or band to fit and to serve the interpretation of the vocalist. Yeah, yeah. Good question, though. Yeah, but the singer is always right. Other questions? Good.
Anybody else? When is it that the soloist is right, or when is it that they have lost their way?
Well, I mean, yeah, that can happen. And there is, and again, that's where the universal downstroke 4-1 is the magic recipe for getting people back in place. So that there is within, music, oftentimes the downbeat of each new measure is an opportunity to bring a group back in. If there are exceptions, there are pieces of music that are very complex where that's not as easy, but oftentimes that down movement for the beginning of a measure will help coordinate the singer and ensemble back together to kind of find each other. That's happened. And when you get back on, oh boy, it's a glorious, glorious moment.
I'm sure it's a
Yeah.
great relief.
Yeah. Right, right. Other questions when this is good.
Anybody else have any questions? No? Do you want to tell us a little bit, Mike, about what you talked about? You're at the high school. Do you also, are you in other bands?
Let's relate some of this stuff. Okay, so I love playing jazz music. So, and I play with a combo at Elmhurst Hall once a month. The unspoken communication happening in a combo, very similar to the unspoken communication between the conductor and the orchestra. If we play a piece of music, and I want the piano to take a solo first, I can just simply put my trumpet down and look over, and that's a cue. That's just like, okay, that's going to happen over there. When we're listening to a solo, and we want to know if the soloist is almost done, we'll just sort of look over at them, and they might look up and be like, "There's a little nod like that. Oh, it's my turn to start playing again." So when you go to a jazz club, which you should go to, pay special attention to that type of eye contact with each other to see that exchange of that unspoken communication that's happening all the time in every moment throughout those musical experiences. Yeah.
What about a marching band leader? Are they using the same gestures and
They
the
are.
same process?
They are. Yes, they are. So in a marching band, which we have a marching band performance this Friday for homecoming, our conductors on the podiums will actually watch the feet of this lead snare drummer in the back. So they're watching the feet there because the sound from that point on the field is so far away that when it gets to you here, that it's different than my motion. So I'm going like this, I'm hearing bop, bop. So if I just go off of listening to the group, I'm going to be off, and they're going to be like, why are you conducting out of sync with us? So if I just watch, they have to watch the feet of the watch the feet of the drummer. The drummer is also looking up and seeing if they're keeping correct tempo as well. But that's kind of how that works. And they're crucial because if the band is spread across the field, you can't trust your ears really. You really have to trust what you're seeing rather than what you're hearing in order for it to come out to the audience at the same point. Good question. Great.
Must a conductor have extensive experiences with all instruments?
No, you don't. It helps, but Muti, who he wouldn't be able to tell you which valve to press to play a E flat on the trumpet or something, but he knows all the sounds that it can make and what he wants to extract out of those instruments. So not necessarily how to play the instruments, but they know exactly what sounds can be produced from those instruments. Yeah, good question.
Any other questions? No?
All right.
Oh, here I go. Are the conductors the highest paid in the orchestra?
Yes, yes, often. What's that? Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, even the guy that was like, oh, what time is it? Yes, usually. Although, in Sousa's band, this is kind of fun. Legend has it that the highest paid musician was the bass drummer, which was crucial at keeping time. By the way, Sousa, and this was told to me by Tim Foley, who has been to New York several times, but he's a former director of the Marine Band in Washington, D.C. Was with the Marine Band for over 40 years. But really, Sousa didn't want anything played anything faster than about 116 or 118 beats per beat. And so you'll hear Sousa marches played faster than that. And he was famous for pulling the band aside and saying, look, you're playing these too fast. We're going to slow down. Listen to the bass drummer. We're going to keep this tempo. He's very, very specific about his tempo markings.
I have another question. This is about teaching.
Okay.
How is teaching high school, and do you love your job?
I love my job. I love my job. This is a fun story that we talked about investment and trust. I had a group of sixth graders in a band in Westmont when I was teaching junior high. This group, they just trusted me, and so much in that I could conduct any motion, and they would be with me. Actually, Ron Planchich came and conducted that group at one point at a rehearsal, and he was conducting. He slowed down and he did some expression movements, and they stayed right with him. And he looked over at me and was like, oh. So yes, middle school can provide some remarkably expressive moments, connection moments. Of course, high school, York High School, our top groups at York, we play college level literature. And these recordings were of the York band. And so to be able to perform that type of music at that caliber is exhilarating. Absolutely.
Test. Okay.
I know you'll probably be modest, but we've listened to your jazz concerts, Luke and I have, and I
Oh.
mean,
Oh,
exquisite,
oh,
but
you're so sweet.
I mean,
Thank you.
so
Thank
I
you.
came from private high schools where
Okay.
it's not at that caliber to any
It's
degree.
tough.
So what do you equate it to? Do you find it to be the conductor, the musicians, or is it the relationship between the two that make it to
Yeah, I
the
think
college
it's-
level of?
Yeah, I think, well, it's very sweet of you to,
I mean, I'm
we-
sorry, if no one has
yeah.
gone, like I would recommend going to
that's
their
great.
jazz concerts because I was like,
Very
this
nice.
is free. And
Well,
I mean,
Thank
like
you.
I said, unbelievable.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We have remarkable students at York. Hector's one of them. And they are smart, they're talented, and they work hard. They also take private lessons. We have amazing private teachers in the area because of our proximity to Chicago. Some of the best musicians that they can study with, they're studying with. So that makes a tremendous difference. But yeah, no, it's loving what you do. And again, like we talked about through the entire program, it's like the conductor is so much more than just this. It's like you've got to garner that trust and connection. And once you have that shared sense of purpose, yeah, some crazy great things can happen for sure.
Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.
Come back for the next one on songwriting next week, next month. And it should be fun too. Tell your friends. Have them come.
As people are packing up, can I ask you
Yeah.
one more question and then we'll shut it down?
Absolutely.
If a mistake happens, would a conductor point at that person during the concert?
No, no. There might be an angry scowl. But yeah, special look. Yeah, they'll know. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Great. Thank you,
Thanks
Mike.
so much. Thank you.